What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We are back with another Crystal of Atlan video. We're going to be going over the different weapons inside the game and what each weapon actually can do. We're going to be going based on what the weapons actually say. I don't have all three weapons crafted at the moment. I do have one of them, being the Mind Realm Star Ring for my Cloud Strider, and I've been able to test this weapon out and see the damage difference between this one and people who use the Miragegold weapon. So I just want to go over between the three weapons, what my thoughts on each weapon are at the moment before we actually get a chance to actually get the weapons and then actually test them and see which ones are definitely the best. For those who don't necessarily want to watch the whole video, but still want to kind of know my thoughts on what weapon is best for Cloud Strider, me personally, I will be going for the Jade Dragon weapon. So the weapon all the way at the bottom that gives you the crit and crit damage that scales more off of crit, because I think that weapon will be very, very good once we get to the last stage of the weapon and we are able to craft that weapon and then get insignias that will then add on more elemental damage because of how elemental damage actually works in this game. So for simplicity's sake, we'll call the basic path the Miragegold path. We'll call the elemental path the elemental path. So like for Cloud Strider, the Mind Realm Star Ring would be the elemental path. And then we'll call the bottom path the Dragon path. Just because, as you can see here, if we look at the other classes, that bottom path always has some type of dragon in the name. So we'll just call it the Dragon path to keep it consistent. So taking a look at the Miragegold path, this path is going to be very, very straightforward in regards to how you upgrade. It goes either from your level 55 rare weapon. You can go ahead and use that weapon to infuse to craft the Miragegold weapon. The Miragegold weapon usually gives about 7% crit and the main stat that scales your attack, as well as +1 to all your active skills from 1 to 40 for your class. You can upgrade your Miragegold weapon to the Starflame weapon. That will grant you even higher main attributes as well as even higher additional attributes. You'll also be adding crit damage as one of your additional attributes, as well as extending the range of skills that you're actually able to add a +1 on. So instead of it being level 1 to 40, it'll be level 1 to 55. This path is for people who want an instant stat increase and don't necessarily want to rely on RNG or grinding out 2,000 shards of their class to get the specific weapon that they want. These weapons don't have necessarily anything special in regards to additional attributes, but what they do is provide a big overall stat boost to things like intelligence for magical classes or strength for physical classes, as well as crit and crit damage. So overall, you will see a damage boost with using this weapon, as everyone that I have seen with this weapon does do very, very good damage. In fact, if you even look on the leaderboard, you'll see that a lot of the people on the leaderboard are actually using their Miragegold weapon still. Now, one thing that leaves me a little bit apprehensive on the Miragegold weapon path is the amount of Magitrium it actually costs. So it costs about 800 Magitrium to fully upgrade your Miragegold weapon. And it also costs Magitrium to upgrade your class-specific set to level 60, as well as craft your first version of the raid set. So it's a lot of Magitrium to actually invest into the weapon itself. And the other paths only cost about 300 to fully invest into. So you kind of save on the Magitrium for the other paths. But with this Miragegold weapon, you kind of do use 800. So it could potentially set you back in crafting some other pieces of gear, depending on where your account is at. So keep that in mind if you do go for this path here. Me personally, I was planning on skipping this path completely, and even if I didn't actually get the weapon that I have now currently on my Cloud Strider, I would have just kept my level 55 rare weapon just to save the Magitrium. But I know a lot of people that actually are using the Miragegold weapon right now, and the Miragegold weapon is definitely a stat upgrade. So if you want to go ahead and get more damage, you feel like you're lacking in damage, the Miragegold is not a bad investment. Now, the elemental path is going to be something that you can start either by crafting the first weapon with 2,000 class shards by grinding the Void Realm and Abyssal Purgatory dungeons, or you can get lucky in the Void Realm and Abyssal Purgatory and actually get the weapon to drop for you. This weapon can also drop in the raid, and you'll see later on inside this video that a friend of mine actually gets pretty lucky and gets the Warlock weapon from the raid as well. This weapon is going to give you overall an attribute increase to all attributes, as well as giving you attribute resistance to all attributes, also giving you 5% crit at base level, and allowing you to gain attribute attack based on the highest value among your 4 attribute enhancements. Thanks to a video from Gids, I was actually able to see exactly what elements do inside of this game, and they don't necessarily give you any special burning or freezing or slow effects or anything like that, or electricity effects or anything like that. But what it actually does is give you a flat damage bonus on top of all your actual damage once you convert the elemental damage with the weapon itself, or with other means like food and stuff like that. But since this is the weapon video, we're talking about the weapon. So for example, here on my Cloud Strider, I have Umbro enhancement giving me about 30% Umbro damage. What this means is that I'll be getting a extra 30% damage to all of my attacks, be that skills, basic attacks, and everything like that, while using the Mind Realm Starving weapon. What this means for the elemental path and weapons is that this will definitely end up outperforming the Miragegold weapon, as you're able to scale a percent damage bonus onto your basic attack and other skills. So for example, in my Cloud Strider's case, she has about 30% Umbro damage that's going to be added on to her basic attack and skills. If I was to invest more into this through circuits or insignias, you could even scale it to about a 50% damage bonus, which would be a huge overall increase to your damage, and then being able to scale your crit and other stats as well to even give you even more damage on top of that. This weapon will definitely do big damage, and I can attest to that as someone who actually does have this weapon, as my damage did skyrocket on my Cloud Strider once I actually did get this weapon. So for those who want to go for an elemental build, I don't think it is not valuable at all. I think it's actually extremely potent and extremely good. This weapon also has 2 upgrades that you're able to go into, one of them costing 300 Magitrium, as well as some Jet Black Sculpture you get from the raid. This will increase the additional attributes that you're actually getting, as well as scale the main attributes even higher as well. And then the last and final upgrade is another piece that you will get from the raid. Only you get from the raid. It will cost about 120 Jet Black Structure and this Exceed Weapon Blueprint, which you actually get both pieces from the raid. It'll come ripped into like half, so you'll get like the top part of the scroll and then the bottom part as like an RNG drop from farming the raid. And then you'll be able to fully upgrade this weapon, giving you even more additional attributes and even more main attributes as well. Now, being as the game has just came out and we have just gotten to the end game, I got lucky and actually got this weapon to drop for me from Abyssal Purgatory on my Warlock, and then I was able to transfer it over to my Cloud Strider with transfer stones. But there's not very many other people who have the other version of this weapon, so the dragon path. There's not many people who actually have this path for me to actually test and compare damage. And we don't even have the weapons fully upgraded, and we won't probably have them fully upgraded for quite a while we're waiting for actual calcs to see which weapon is quote unquote or dead set on being the best. But if you do get this weapon here as like an early drop for your class, don't feel hesitant about going ahead and upgrading to it, as you will see a damage increase from the Miragegold set. Last but not least, we're taking a look at the Dragon Path. The Dragon Path is going to be more of a standard crit scaling and skill damage path here for weapons. Essentially what you're getting here is the same main attributes that you would get from the Elemental Path, but instead the additional attributes are going to give you crit damage, skill damage, attack, as well as giving you +1 to your active skills between 15 to 45, and also reducing the cooldown of one of your ultimates by 10%. This is at the base level. To craft this weapon, it is the same as the Elemental Path. You'll need 2,000 of your class specific shards that you get from farming the Abyssal Purgatory and the Void Realm. Or again, you can get lucky in the Void Realm or Abyssal Purgatory, have this dungeon drop, or also get lucky in the raid and have this version of the weapon drop as well. Once you upgrade this weapon one time, you will get even further scaling on the weapon. So you'll get about 10% crit, 10% crit damage, 3.4% skill damage. Instead of it being a flat attack boost, you'll now get a percent scaling attack boost, as well as having even more +1s to more of your active skills, giving one of your ultimates not only a cooldown reduction, but also a damage increase. Now, when looking at this weapon, since I don't personally have it, the overall stats that it provides just leads me to believe that this is a much more traditional weapon, where you're not taking advantage of or leaning into elements too heavily. You're more building into crit and crit damage and just trying to scale those stats more than the elemental stats. And this seems like the weapon that will go ahead and just give you even more boost to that in general. Even when you go ahead and upgrade the weapon again and make it the final version of this weapon, which you will do again by farming the raid. You'll need Magitrium and raid pieces to go ahead and upgrade the weapon fully. But once you do upgrade this weapon will scale even more, giving you about the same main attributes as the elemental weapon, but scaling the additional attributes even more, rounding out the skill damage to 4%, giving you +1 to all of your skills for your whole class, as well as giving you a passive that now allows you to stack 15% crit damage, as long as you are critting. While I can attest to the elemental weapon being very, very strong, this weapon I think could potentially scale higher, and this is just a thought process or me theory crafting essentially, since I don't have the weapon to actually test it. Once I actually do get a weapon for a class that I play, will definitely test how this weapon actually works. But I think that this weapon could potentially scale even higher than the elemental weapon because it's boosting all of your overall stats, and then you can still slot it in an insignia for elemental damage, as well as, or if you don't have an insignia, you can use food to slot in some type of elemental damage based on what you've built in with your insignias, as well as your circuits. So I think this weapon could potentially be better than the elemental weapon, but we have to actually test it to be sure. So far, if you have either one of these three, the Miragegold, this weapon here, the Dragon Path, or the Elemental Path, you are going to be doing very good damage. The Miragegold, again, is a pretty good placeholder just for now. If you want to actually increase your damage for now, while you're waiting for these other two weapons to drop for you, maybe you haven't been as lucky, or you just don't want to wait as long, you can definitely do that. But just be mindful that it does take some Magitrium, so you want to actually manage your Magitrium to make sure that, or Magitrium to be sure that you actually do have enough when you're ready to craft your raid set, or if you get so lucky with your class pieces when you're ready to go ahead and upgrade your class set. Me personally, I'm going to be holding off on upgrading my elemental weapon. I want to go for the Jade dragon weapon for Cloud Strider, because I think that the class would scale a lot better with these type of stats rather than having an elemental focus. And then once I go ahead and have my Jade dragon weapon and have my crit and crit damage where I want it to be, then I'll start focusing more on elements and trying to get more damage from those. But just because my class is not natively a elemental class, I'm thinking about holding off on pushing my elemental weapon all the way to the max. If I was on Warlock, for example, I would probably push this weapon here because I think this weapon actually could be very, very good on a class like Warlock. Trying to get my Umbro damage as high as I could possibly go, just to have the biggest overall damage boost, my damage. I think that could be very, very good on a class like Warlock, but time will tell. This video was more just an overview of all the weapon paths to give you guys a clear-eyed understanding of the different weapons, how you'll go about crafting them, and basically what they can do. As we are very much still in the early game for Crystal of Atlan, don't feel too discouraged if you do get the elemental weapon for your class, as again it is a very, very big stat upgrade, as elements do scale very, very nicely. And if you do get the Jade Dragon weapon, definitely let me know inside the comments exactly how it works out for you. I personally believe this weapon will be very, very good, but I would definitely love some confirmation inside the comments as well. Thank y'all for watching. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.